Good morning, Paul Davies. How are you?
Oh, good, Pete. How are you, mate?
I'm really, really well. I'm thrilled to have you on the Agent's Edge. Paul Davies, you're well known amongst the real estate fraternity. You've been around for a long time, and I mean that in a very nice way. But as the CEO and founder of one agency, great to have you on board, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So great to have you on board. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Oh, thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure.
You're on a members tour at the moment. So you've left the wonderful Northern Beaches, which we both reside in, and you've gone up in the Queensland world up there. How's that going?
Yeah, really good. I'm traveling with my wife Annie, who's also a partner in the business. We created it together back in '08. We love catching up with our members, and they love seeing us as well because not a lot of CEOs, I think, from major networks do connect directly with their members. So we make a point of it. We flew into the Gold Coast between there, and I'm in Noosa at the present time. And then we go up all the way to Hervey Bay. We catch up with about 14 or 15 different members' businesses. And it's a real pleasure because you get to see how they've progressed from the last time we saw them. And of course, with
Mm.
COVID, it's been a while since we've been able to connect with them. So now we're really enjoying it. Well, our members are happy. And if they're happy, we're happy. We don't have an operational standard that we think that they need to adhere to. We're more interested to know how they would like to run their businesses and then support them in that endeavor. So we do that. We listen to them very carefully. We help them where we can. And it's great. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, terrific. Well, we'll dive into all that because I'm really fascinated to learn more as will the people sort of joining us today. But we've known each other for a long time and you've been around for a while as well. You probably won't share the number of years because it's probably going to date us both, but it's certainly changed from when you first got into the industry. You want to give us a bit of an insight into that?
Look, yeah, I was reflecting this morning on what I might say with you, and I thought, I don't mind admitting it, I've been in the industry 51 years this year, and I can't believe that, by the way, but I think I feel very fortunate in that I haven't done 50 times 1 year as a salesperson. I've
Mm.
done such a lot of different things, starting out as a property manager for 6 years, moving into sales, cutting my teeth on residential sales, and also we did project sales. We built blocks of units and we sold them all over Sydney. That was a great experience, and also land subdivisions as well. Then I moved into sales management. Then I eventually, after 13 years of making my boss wealthy, he was my mate. I was happy for him, but it was my turn. So I stepped up to business ownership. I bought a little funny little office, a very old but small independent business in Balgowlah on the northern beaches of Sydney, near where we live. And I then joined a major network and I stayed with them for 10 years. And then I got the idea that if I can merge businesses, I can enjoy economies of scale. So I did that. I merged three businesses into one, including buying a business, and that was in Mossman in Sydney, which, as you know, is one of Australia's most prestigious suburbs. And we had 1,500 managements and 30 odd staff, and it was a huge business. It was the biggest in Mossman for a number of years. And that was a fabulous experience too, because it taught me probably the most valuable lesson that I've ever learned in real estate. And I'm quite famous in my group for banging on about this. And it's a simple message. It's not what you make, it's what you keep that
Mm.
counts. And the industry is so driven by turnover all the time. And I was as well, absolutely. But I learned it the hard way. And with a business that big, you can't automatically drive more turnover if your bank balance gets lower. So it forced me into analyzing my business operating costs. And then
Mm.
I realized that that really was the key to success, no matter what size your business. The success, the profitability of that business is predicated on what it costs you to run it. And
Mm.
every dollar more it costs you to run is another dollar you've got to earn and another dollar you don't get to keep. So then I
Mm.
worked out that really, and the thing that drove it home to me at the same time as the big Mossman business, I had a small boutique business, Pete, and that was costing me like threepence halfpenny to run. And the big business was $250,000 a month back in 2000. That was a lot of money. It is still today.
Mm.
And I looked at the two and I thought, gosh, which is the easiest to run and which can make me money consistently? And it was the small one because the operating costs were low. Big businesses are great providing they're making money all the time, but you've got to keep making money all the time because the expenses are going like a steam train 24/7. And as
Mm.
soon as you stop making money, they just roll straight over the top of you.
We both worked in that same major group, and I,
Yeah.
I recall we used to talk about the fact that most businesses are probably 70-80%. If they had 3 months in a row where they didn't write any business, no matter
Yeah.
how long they'd been around,
Yeah.
they were out. It's like we used to call
Sure.
it three
It's a
dot
short
months.
fuse.
Yeah,
It's a short fuse, isn't it? Yeah, it's
it
deadly.
is because profit is something that is critically important. One of the guys who's been quite prolific in the real estate industry that I know and got to work with used to always say, look, you never go broke making a profit. Yet profit is not the thing that gets talked about generally within our industry. It's about the volume of sale, or it's a value of sale. And we, of course, we have this great acronym of GCI, gross commission income, but we don't actually talk about profit. What do you make once you've actually created that gross
Oh,
revenue?
I couldn't agree more. And I've met a lot of really successful agents. We have the nickname for them in the business. They're the gorillas, and they're sort of sitting there and proudly announcing how much they earn. And I go, look, that's really impressive. There's 100%. I couldn't write that myself. How the hell do you do it? But just before we launch into that, how much of all that did you keep?
Mm.
Because that's what I need to know. That's what's going to make the difference to you. And that's what's going to give you wealth in the future. And that's where a lot of the industry gets it wrong, Pete. And I was reflecting too on what I might talk to you this morning about as well. And going back all in the day, it was quite common for an agent to be keeping, 35% of the take. And if they're really good, they'd get 50%. So the 35% was, average for a lot of businesses. There are still some today that work on that principle, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But if it's a shared listing, half goes to the other person and half for you for selling it. So then you're down to 17 or something. And then they've got franchise fees and other bits and pieces they can invent. And you end up with, enough to buy your lunch for selling a place. It's just bloody mad.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, how much better is it today? And agents need to take stock of that. They have got the most incredible opportunity to prosper in this industry. Two ways. One, run a business economically, which we can help them with. Not what you make, it's what you keep that counts. And number two, use proptech like what you've got, Realtair, something that enables them to give better client care and cover more bases and have more capacity to do the thing that they do best, list and sell property.
You think back about when you and I first, well, actually, I was after you. I'm only 33,
A
so
long time after me.
I feel like a real junior compared to your 51. But you remember that everything that was ever talked about in training, which I actually think there's a lot of the same. The training was terrific back in those days, which was all focused on relationship, is just as relevant today. The difference was though, you just didn't have the tools. You didn't have a CRM. You had that little particular box of cards. You didn't have, the ability to be able to, do everything from digital presentations to transactional management, all that sort of stuff. Like
None of that.
if you're an agent today, how would you feel compared to back then?
Pete, look, they're so advantaged today. And if you wanted to step up to business ownership, oh my God, you got to go and rent a shop front. You got to go and get this and a that and a receptionist, and the bills start adding up. The cost of running your business is substantial. You're under the pump the whole time. Now, to run a business, providing you've got a license, and anyone that's listening to that doesn't have a license, get your license, because it gives you the flexibility to own a business one day if you want. You can't without it. But if you've got a license and you want to be independent and keep most of your fees and grow a business, maybe employ staff, build a rent roll, an asset for yourself, all those sort of goodies, then you can do it with a phone. You don't need an office. I mean, it makes me laugh, Pete. Annie and I, when we launched one agency in 2008, we were known as the industry disruptors. And we said, you really don't need to have an office because people don't shop that way anymore. Oh, we get a raised eyebrow. Oh, you really think, there's a lot of people doing it. We've got a lot of members that do it. So maybe it's fine. Now, fast forward 15 years and COVID to boot, and someone says, you don't have to have an office. I go, oh, yeah, no, you don't need an office. And we're going, we've been ranting on about this for so long. So you don't need an office. You don't need all those costs. You need a license, a mobile phone, a desk to sit at, and good prop tech like you guys have got. And you're up and running. And it's a fantastic opportunity for people. They're so lucky.
It's funny how you say that, because I feel like that as well on the tech side, where we don't need to do digital agency. We can do that just on paper because that's what we've been used to. And then COVID came and it took everyone that was kind of sitting on the fence with that. They probably knew they needed to really thrust them into it.
So true.
I can imagine your frustration from 2008, where I suppose when you do a disruptor and you kind of get that label, which I recall that you had, a lot of people kind of look at your model and say, well, that model doesn't work for all these reasons, and it's not good for that reason, and this reason you needed all of that. And really, I guess you must be really proud too, how back in 2008 saw an opportunity in a model that you've got, I think, 600 agents that are operating under their one agency?
Yeah, more than 600 personnel across Australia, New Zealand and Fiji. And the reason I gave you my background before, Pete, is that I felt that it allows viewers to understand that I've had a very broad perspective of the real estate industry world and agency. And from my own personal experiences, I'm not guessing. When I set up one agency, I thought, right, what are the things that an agent really needs? And what are the things they don't need? And the first thing I threw out, no disrespect to the franchises, of course, but I didn't like paying franchise fees. So a penalty tax, as I call it, but get rid of that. Just make it a low monthly subscription. And why is a subscription better? Because that is a global trend. You can get just about everything on subscription now. Look at what happened with movies and music. And this is the way the world is moving. The customer, in our case, real estate agents, they want a better deal and they can get a better deal. Also, if you reflect back the number of real estate businesses, there was the major brands and there was a few others around, but that's how it was. Now, you've got a proliferation of agents setting up their own businesses because they can. And it's so much easier for them and it's so much more rewarding for them in the long run. There's so much more freedom now. It's incredible.
Yeah, we just mentioned about Fiji. I actually was over in Fiji just the other day, and I did see one of your agencies. But also, like to expand in New Zealand, I guess where there's a lot of discussion around. Well, there's a real estate market in Australia, and this is how it works. We're all doing the same things, really. There's not a great deal of difference. So I imagine New Zealand's been a very happy hunting ground for you because I guess that's also a marketplace where agents are required to do a lot more themselves, and then be able to do that under your brand and be able to do that in their own way. I'm sure that's been valuable too, hasn't it?
Yeah, agents have the opportunity to operate a business economically, keep more of the fees that was never been available to them before. New Zealand really took off for us because as the market gets tougher, and it's very tough over there at the moment, agents, they look for a better solution to retain more of the fee. When you can't sell as many, you need to keep more of the fee. That makes sense. And so we make sense to a lot of agents who just want to do that. They don't want to get out of the industry. It's tough, but they want a business that is sustainable. I know that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it is very, very relevant. And as you said, 3 months and they're out the door. Well, that's because the business costs too much to run. And the industry benchmarking that I've observed from Lee Woodward, the Real Estate Academy and Macquarie Bank will tell you that it costs on average across Australia, 85 cents in the dollar to run your business. So you get to keep 15. That's considered normal. I think it's very abnormal. In fact, I think it's insane to run a business where you've got such a thin margin. And that's exactly why in 3 months, people are out the door. What we do is we say, look, we want to turn that completely round the other way. We want you to be able to run your business for 15 cents in the dollar and keep 85. Now, if they follow our lead, we've got plenty of people that do that, by the way. That's not smoking wacky tobacco, although it wouldn't be a bad idea at times. But no, no, seriously, it can be done. It is done. People are doing it all the time. And then you tell me, how long does it take for an agent to go broke then? It's very, very difficult. You need one sale a year and you're okay. You're not going to get a wage, but you're not going to go broke.
Well, that's where I think, I completely agree with you. I mean, I guess particularly now we've seen a bit of a market change in that efficiency in the way that a property is transacted, either at a business level or at an agent level, is pretty important. One of the things that, that we've kind of focused on, and we're very similar, as we've had conversations before where you've been in the industry for a while, you get to see what some of the other issues are, some of the pain points. And with that experience, and particularly the broadness of your experience, you've been able to find that solution, and one agency's been really successful for you. For us, it's kind of been pretty similar, where agents who understand the sales process and have just identified areas that we can make that a little bit easier with technology.
Oh, a lot easier and more compliant, because a lot of agents don't step up to business ownership because they're scared, they're terrified of compliance. Typical salesperson, as I was, I'm not going to speak for you, but you might be the same as me. You just want to get out and meet people and list and sell and talk and have fun and put deals together. And they don't want all that, what I call a grey cloud of compliance. I don't know about that. And that's why they get stuck working for another person, because they really don't want to look at that, and they give away a whack of their income just because they don't want to look at it. But these days, with businesses like yours and others, they can get a lot of that compliance managed. You can outsource your trust accounting these days, as you know. I think you're moving more into that. You do the transaction up to deposit. All that part of it's taken care of by Realtair. The agent doesn't have to worry about it. And I believe you're probably moving toward the last bit of it as well. I hope so. And that was just a great service to the industry. It really is.
I think the thing that everything that we tried to do was try and find ways to just spend either find more time, and that is either spend more time with your customers and provide them with better service, or trying to find that elusive work-life balance. And I guess that's where I feel like that's something that agents need and they
Yeah.
desire, particularly now with a bit of a market change. They've got to really take a hard look at that and say, how do I get more time into my transaction, and that is to spend more time with customers, including buyers, because they're are now a much more valuable part of the transactional process, which I think agents are recognizing these days too. So I'm happy that we can all play a part in that side of things. But where do you kind of see things going from here? I mean, at the moment you've created a big business across a number of countries, provided another option to agents outside of what would be the traditional, even though you've been going since 2008, which is incredible.
I know.
But
Drives us mad. But anyway, go on. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
but I mean, where do you see the industry going now? You saw it early in 2008,
Yeah.
2023. Where does it land, sort of in the next couple of years?
Look, it's a difficult question to answer because I don't have a crystal ball. Of course, no one does. But I think it's trending toward agents have to work smarter. They have to adopt prop tech like yourself. They need to cover more bases. They need to be clever about how they conduct their businesses. I see more agents going out under their own steam. There's a lot of businesses that have, I was going to say copied, it's not quite right. They've taken a subscription based model similar to ours. No one does it for the same fee level as us, and no one provides, I believe, everything that we provide, which is substantial. An agent steps into a turnkey solution with us, they don't need to look anywhere else. They've got everything. So I think you're going to see more agents stepping up to business ownership because at the end of the day, that is the most satisfying position to be in if you are a real estate agent. Let's be
Mm,
honest. You've got complete control of your own destiny. Your income is completely reliant upon what you do, and not, you can't blame the boss or he didn't market this or that. You can just get straight into action about what you believe is best in your marketplace. You can run your business economically. You can employ staff when you get down the track a bit and you feel that you're in a position and a maturity of business that can support more salespeople. You can build a rent roll, which is painful as hell, but most people do it because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, as soon as you walk out of your business in 10 years and hand the keys back to the landlord that owns the commercial property, you got nothing.
mm,
That is your retirement, that rent roll. And I think that's so important for agents. And most of our members have identified that and do that. So I think you're going to see more people stepping up into their own businesses, which we love because that's our area of expertise. I think mental health is a big issue going forward. We met with one of our members in the last few days, and he was going to throw the towel in because he was struggling mentally. And we've worked with him very closely to reshape his business. In his particular case, he did the opposite. He sold his rent roll because it was stressful to him. He's
mm.
downsized his business. He's an excellent salesperson. He's doing now what he loves. He's got good support around him. He's re-energized. He feels mentally capable. He gave Annie and I the most beautiful gifts because he thanked us for not letting him go. I said, well, it was in our interest too, But I think when I spoke to him when he was struggling, hand on heart, Annie and myself, we wanted the best for him. It
Mm.
wasn't about what we wanted. It was about what would work for him and where he needs to go in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think he really got that. So he's so sincerely grateful to us that he got through that and he's now feeling very well and positioned for the future. So I think mental health is a big thing, Pete.
Yeah.
And I know that you look after your health. I haven't seen you down there swimming in Manly, but I keep my eye out because I get in the water as well.
I was
But
there this morning,
you were?
16.2 degrees. So yeah, no wetsuit. So just put that out there.
Oh God, I was in about a week ago. It was 14 points because they write it in chalk on that thing on the wall,
I
don't they?
know I was in that same swim, that 14.2, and it was
Oh,
very
I
taxing.
nearly didn't go in. I thought, oh, this is not good. This is going to hurt. But don't you feel good after it?
You do. And I guess the thing that I feel that we've got a responsibility at Realtair too is to provide transparency in the process, provide the flexibility in the tools that we provide. And we always look at everything that we do through a lens of an agent. And if that whole time thing that we were talking about, and
Yeah.
where do you spend your time? And you spend your time in areas where you've got your expertise, but then you also have got the choice to then decide where you spend that, whether it's with your family or within your business. And
So
that's where we've worked with a number of your key businesses and sales salespeople. I'm glad that we've had an impact with them there. I had an agent who called me one day and said, the thing I really love about working with you guys is sitting at the dining table and exchange a contract from the dining table when he's there with his family. And you just go back in the paper days, if you had to drive to Wagga from Sydney to exchange a contract, you would. You don't have to do any of that today. You've got all of that really, as you said before, in the palm of your hand. And it changes, I think, the whole dynamic of what real estate agency practice is all about with technology and also the new way and the other options that are available outside of the traditional means. And I would say probably, given you've been around for such a long time, since 2008, you're almost a tradition and moving into that space, because that's a long time in business, and 600 more agents that are operating under that system that you've created is obviously having an impact, and it's growing, which is great to see.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Look, staying fresh is a challenge for us. When you've been in the business a long time, there's an inclination to become complacent. We fight that like hell. We've just introduced lead gen on our main websites. We've introduced One Place, which is a one place all of our members can access, and everything is there. Realtair's there, all of our marketing templates, which are absolutely extensive. We've been developing them since '08. We've never actually had to change the brand. We check in with our members and they said, don't change it. It works. We love it. Don't do anything. Because you often see major groups changing their look, and I disagree with that. If it's working, leave it. And so all of our templates that we've been creating since '08 are still valid today, and we're moving new ones in. There's a whole lot of social media stuff we've just dumped in there recently for Father's Day coming in. And so our members are equipped with everything that they need to conduct their business and compete fiercely. And staying ahead of my competition, which is substantial, is challenging, but it's great fun when we get people joining us. And it's a pretty consistent flow of people coming to us, thank God. They identify, it makes sense to them. They identify the value in being with us, and they identify the value to themselves in retaining most of their hard-earned fees, because the industry is cruel. They do all this work and they end up with not enough to take home to their family. And my mission, and Annie, my wife, is to fix that, is to empower agents to make business ownership simple, to try and upskill them. As I said earlier, they need to work smarter, not harder. As you've said, they've got time then to spend with their family, to look after their mental health, and to have an enjoyable life. Because at the end of the day, it's not all about work.
And I think where the industry is going, there's always going to be different models that exist. And some people fall directly into a model that works perfectly for them. And there's others that kind of, need to probably just stay in a lane because they don't know that something else doesn't exist. And it's great that there's alternatives. I think what you've been able to identify and then create an opportunity for the industry is really remarkable. And hats off to you for that. We've got a lot of one agency customers and salespeople that are getting value from the platform. I'm sure that we're going to continue to work as closely together as we have, and probably more so into the future. And I also just agree, Paul, that the industry as it is at the moment, it is a challenging time for agents, and it's an opportunity really for agents and agencies to really evaluate what it is that they are doing, how it is that they run. The thing that we completely concur on is efficiency. If we can improve the efficiency in the transaction, then at least you free up opportunity, and then it's the decision to what you do with that. But great to have you on today. Any other closing messages that you'd like to share, or any nuggets of value?
It's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts.
Yeah, right.
That is the number one lesson I've learned in my 51 years. So if that helps anyone out there, I did write a book, actually, if anyone would like a book on profitable real estate business ownership, and it talks about that. And it runs through talked earlier about my careers, what I did in my career and the various businesses I owned. And I did that primarily, Pete, to save people making the obvious mistakes that I made. I think I've been a bit of a slow learner, to be honest, in some ways, but I've learned now. And I like to share those learnings with agents so they don't have to make the mistakes I made, so they can go forward in life and prosper, not be exposed to too much risk. Have an enjoyable life. You know yourself, if you're happy in your life, you're better at what you do. If you're under the pump all the time, as I was with the big business at Mossman, you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning going, oh my God, what's today going to bring? Instead of springing out and go, oh, this is going to be great today, So yeah, we love helping agents. We really do.
I think the thing that really is gaining visibility and traction is the concept of profits. The industry, I think, we've got great people, we've got great systems, we've got great platforms, and we've got a market that's reasonably, whilst it goes up and down, it's pretty stable, and it gives all agents and agencies the opportunity to make the most of capturing market share. It's all available there. The thing about it is that profit, and go back to that phrase of that never go broke making a profit, it's probably got to be a higher level of assessment, and probably a higher level of the way that we hold some of our people in the industry at a higher level we
Yeah,
kind of say, oh, well, you've got a gross commission level of this. That's really, really, really important. But if you're not making money out of it, then it's not that valuable.
it's spinning
And I,
your wheels. No,
and I
you're
can
spot.
tell you, running prop tech businesses and growing them up and scaling them up, I kind of understand very much about how important it is to value every single dollar, every single expense that goes out is something that you've got to be understand what it's for and understand the value that you're going to get and make sure that you do get an ROI because it's something that we don't as an industry really talk too much about. So I
No,
think
and we should.
at the very least, bringing that to the fore, I think, across the entire industry. And Paul, I just want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I know that you're really busy. You're doing your travel, seeing your members and all of that up in Queensland. And I hope you travel safe with all of that. Thanks for all your wonderful insights, sharing your history. And we look forward to continuing to working with you and your team into the future. So thanks so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Pete.